What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Fight Court. I'm Dean Thomas. That's Ryan Quinn. We are fresh off a hot weekend, super hot weekend in Vegas at the Sphere. They've been referring to it as just Sphere, but it's so hard for me to let that roll. It doesn't roll right when you say Sphere as opposed to the Sphere. So I may do a disservice here and refer to it as the Sphere. So the Sphere was an amazing.
I ain't gonna let you die on that hill. I've been calling it the Sphere. It's the Sphere.
Okay, good, good. I think everybody who has sense, except for the people in the know who were probably instructed to call it Sphere. But regardless of what you want to call it, I thought it was an amazing show, an amazing event. Probably, okay, I'm not even gonna say probably. It was the best live show I've ever seen, and I'm a theater guy that loves live entertainment. And in terms of production value, I've never seen anything like it. In terms of the way it was set up, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, even the bars looked like scenes from The Mandalorian. I mean, it was absolutely insane. Like you're in this place and there's drones flying around. It was crazy. Now, how did it come off on TV?
Well, I mean, I know I was texting you prior. I know I kind of prejudged during the prelims. Although I wasn't completely off. I thought it sounded when the prelims, the crowd's not all the way in yet. It sounded outdoors almost. I thought the sound was getting lost with the crowd cheering as well as the music while the fights were going on. But as the crowd filled up, the noise kind of started to bounce off the walls and everything again as if it was somewhere else. But the music still kind of got lost into it got absorbed into the space, I guess. I thought it was interesting that when they were showing the pre-fight highlights for the fighters, they just showed the screens, which was really cool. And they kept the announcers' voices on. But no, overall, I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. You know what? People are kind of missing the point. Those are criticizing. I think that this wasn't really just a UFC event. They were really hitting home on the Mexican Independence holiday, and they were showing clips and they were showing videos right there on the wall. You couldn't pull that off in the MGM or anything like that. It wouldn't have the same effect.
Right. And I think that's a very important point too, right? Was that this was not just a fighting event, it was a celebration of Mexican Independence Day.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that beautifully.
Yeah.
I don't know if it could have been done any better.
I couldn't remember the last time I was ever like if my wife went to, when we're watching the UFC on Saturday night, we're like, she's going inside to get stuff to either paint or she like makes jewelry, and she was leaving the room to go get something. I was like, babe, you got to see what they're doing here. You got to see what they're doing here. Like I was calling her back in just to show like the different stuff with the, it looked like the Mayans that they had in there at one point. Like just, I can't put my finger on it. Even just how they showed like the visual of all the fighters on the card in the main event. It was great. It really was. They knocked it out of the park.
So, like, rumor has it that the Sphere is the only LED light that has a billion colors. They can use a billion different colors, and I think the UFC used everyone.
Yeah, for real. Yeah,
it was insane, and at times it looked like things were falling on you, and like it was just such a cool visual and such a cool dedication to that. And that's from the production side of it. Now, even from the live side of it. And this is something that me and Alan Joban really couldn't stop talking about. And that was the ring card girls. If fantastic. I'm Brittany and an old girl, I'm nervous.
How did they like, was it like they had paint on their face for one, and the next they were like another?
I think they had like 6 different girls, and they had them dressed up. They had like 2 for each fight, and they had them dressed up for like with different themes based on, I guess, maybe what the themes are that they were talking about in those little mini movies. And these women, the way they dressed them up was unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And my favorite costume was the Dia del Muerte, where they had like the skull faces and the margarita dresses. And I was looking at this like, oh my God. Like I felt like here's my thing, man. Like I'm not a gentleman's club type dude, right? I don't like talking about women in that way, just prancing around doing nothing. Well, I mean, in the gentleman's club, they are doing something, they twerking and riding a pole, but that's not my thing. But this was so classy and so just beautifully done that I couldn't help myself but to just stare and be like, I can't believe that this is a real thing. Like,
Yeah,
they've really done these women up
I
so
think
great.
you're comparing apples and oranges with the Gentleman's Club thing. Like, you could that was complete the wardrobe was art, like, that was
Yeah.
oh, well,
Well,
okay, for those of you who are
but
into
the
the
thing is, like,
exotic
if
dancing,
you
that's
talk
art
to
too,
them,
it's just not the kind of art we're talking about right now.
yeah, like, if you yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you talk to, like, a stripper, she'll tell you she's a dancer and an artist, right? Like, that's what and for me, when I look at it, I'm like, "Nah, you a hoe."
Oh, man.
But when I saw these women dressed in these outfits, man, I was, like, blown away that I could, like, really be so attracted to the art of that. I was just blown away, and I was like, "Oh, no, am I a creep?"
Back to the strippers for a second, 'cause you just remind me, I was just reading this book about the 2008 recession, Big Short, and they specifically refer to strippers having 5 different rental properties on their stripper salary, stripper pay. It's just like, is it like can you imagine owning 5 condos?
Listen, that's them, right? That's how they operate.
Anyway, all right, back to the topic, back to the
Back
topic.
to the topic at hand.
I think that it was classy as well. I thought that the ladies looked beautiful. I think that it was pure class.
So who wasn't a fan of it was Brandon Schaub, and he had some very powerful choice words in which he is entitled to his opinion. And let's let him say it. So I'm going to play this clip right now. Clip is over. Ryan, after hearing those words, initial thoughts.
He's missing the boat on exactly like we said. It was more than a UFC event. It was celebrating Mexican independence. They gave a great display with not only the ring girls, with the videos they showed to give homage to that. And the fights weren't that bad. I think that Brandon he's not very funny and he's trying to be funny. And he thought that the Rainforest Cafe was a home run, and it was just a long foul ball, buddy. It was not. And plus, the Rainforest Cafe has great chicken tenders. That much I remember.
But he
But
did say the macaroni. He wasn't talking about the chicken
that's
tenders. He said
true.
the
That's true.
macaroni.
But no, I think he's missing the boat on it. I think that it was an overall amazing event, amazing display, and I just strongly disagree.
Yeah, I think I disagree with him a lot as well. And not because I was there or that I work for the UFC, but his issue here's the problem with the show was that it was so big and it was and everybody we knew that the Sphere was the star of the show. We knew
Mhm.
that was the case. So it was going to be hard for the fighters to live up to that regardless, right? It's regardless of what they did, it would have been very difficult to live up to that. Now, the prelims were the prelims. I'm not even going to talk about them because I'm going to refer to the pay-per-view portion of it because that's what
Yeah.
people
Okay.
essentially paid for,
Yeah.
right? That's what people paid for, the pay-per-view portion of it. And the biggest criticism to the pay-per-view portion was the co-main and the main event. But that has nothing to do with the UFC.
Yeah.
That is nothing. Their performances were not governed by the UFC. That wasn't scripted by the UFC. And regardless, whether you wanted those to be good or not, like those were title fights. These are the best 4 fighters in the world in their respective divisions.
Mhm.
Those were title fights. If they don't deliver, that's not the UFC's fault.
But did they really not deliver? Like, yeah, I guess they were somewhat lackluster, but I don't know how anyone didn't see those fights going that way. I still think that I love seeing Merab fight. I think it's so fun to watch him, and I felt that um, that Valentina was never going to take chances after the 9.5 rounds that they fought. She was not going to take chances with Alexa Grasso's boxing, and I think that after fighting 9 rounds to to win another 3 rounds for Alexa is a lot to ask. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so
She didn't have it in her, man. She did not have any more tricks up her sleeve.
yeah, yeah, it's just like, how do we say, like Alexa had one very strong way to win that fight where Valentina probably had a few others, and it's just to string together that many winning rounds against somebody is really tough to do. So I mean, I saw that fight going that way. Valentina was not going to let her get in her game, and she was going to just win her rounds and chew that clock. Either way, I still thought um, Lopez and I mean, I saw that fight going that way too. I thought that fight was still exciting. There were some exciting fights on the card.
For sure. Lopez and then Daniel Zellhuber and
Yeah,
Esteban Ribovic. I mean,
Armando, yeah,
that's probably one of the best fights of the year so far.
yeah,
Like, so when you think about like the card did deliver, I think that they were
mhm,
just. I mean, I guess you were expecting. Now it would be different, right? Now if it went the way we wanted it to, like on paper, I think on paper we all kind of knew that Valentina was going to win, but we wanted Alexa to win because she's the darling of the division.
yeah.
Had Alexa went out there and won, the narrative of that fight would have been, "What a great fight." But because she lost, I think we have a bias towards Valentina that we just kind of, she's been there. She's not the darling. It was Mexican Independence Day. The story isn't as cool as if Alexa won.
What weight class is Odie Osborne? And
Oh, he was terrible.
what weight class are they?
That was 125.
Yeah.
We could have
So I
did
think
without that one.
just thinking, yeah. So just thinking now, when it came to the main card, there was nobody above featherweight on the card. I wonder if that had something to do with it. There was no bigger guys,
Yeah,
bigger
right.
ladies. So I wonder because
True.
people
True.
when they're spectacles, people want to see heavyweights drop.
True.
Um, whether they realize it or not. So maybe that had something to do with it. Regardless, I mean, I'm a fight nerd, so I'm going to appreciate the product regardless. But
I will say this though, is that fight, but the fans probably love the fight because of the drama in the O'Day fight and the
yeah,
Lazy Boy fight. There was a
mhm,
lot of drama in that. So in dramatic fashion, it ended the way it ended. I
mhm,
thought the fight from a technical and tactical standpoint was horrendous.
yeah,
And
it was.
O'Day is my boy, but like I'm watching this fight, like this guy is just man, he makes so many mistakes in fights.
There
That's
was
and
this.
that's a fact. Listen, I'm not judging his character, and if I talk to him, I'm gonna say, hey man, we got work to do because he gonna be like, I got tired. No, man, like even tired, you don't make those mistakes. He was just making mistake after mistake after mistake.
I put some tweets out where I was like, man, he's he's like doing Lazy Boy a favor here. Like, I just it was you're right, just mistake after mistake after mistake, and just no recognition of where he is in the fight either. Like,
What is this thing about when somebody has your back belly up that you feel like it's a good idea to just sit up and continue to keep sitting up and let them readjust better?
I, I don't know because I don't make that. I've been grappling a while. I just sheer being uncomfortable, that feeling of the panic. I don't know. It just you need a new coach. That's what
Well,
it comes down
and you know that I don't know who his coach is,
to.
but I
Mhm,
think this is a product. This is part of the reason why Vegas wasn't good for everybody all the time
mhm,
because when you're in Vegas and you have the PIs guidance and their assistants, it's great, man. It's the best thing that a fighter could have. But what they don't have is consistent coaching because of the numbers. Like it's you
right.
just unless you're Marab or Whaley John and you can have your team with you, like being in Vegas, you won't really have the coaching. So now you're just a bunch of training partners with a bunch of other guys. And I think that killed them. I mean, that
Yeah,
kills some fighters because like when it comes time to make some really good decisions and you need some really good technical moves on how to do things in certain positions, like you won't get that type of instruction. And to me, it looked like he didn't have that type of instruction.
and you know what too? And I mean, I think this is a little more specific with grappling. It's a little more present with grappling than it is with striking, but if you're not specifically drilling and being critiqued in drilling, you really don't notice that until you're in competition, and you really don't feel how sloppy it is because you know what's happening is when you're in training, and I know this because I've done it. When you're in training and you get tired and nobody's watching, even though you're training, you're just going to do what you're comfortable with to just catch your breath, and then that's what you're going to end up doing in a fight. You're going to do what you're comfortable with. If you're having a bad day, like, oh, let me just get through these rounds, like, And then that's what it looks to. So then when you're outside that comfort zone and they're not giving you a look that the same training partner for the last few weeks was given, you're going to be sloppy. And that's probably what happened.
And drilling is such an important thing. And here's how people fuck this up
Hmm.
is that, there's, when you have A side and a B side, the B side is the drilling partner, right? The B
Right.
side is the most important job in the room. It
Yeah.
really is. And I always tell my guys, the B side is the most important job in the room. It is your job to make sure they're doing it right. It's not your job to defend what they're doing so that they have to work harder to do it. It's your job to feel it and make sure that they're doing it right. It's your job to give them the look, to give them the right move to choose to do it properly. And then it's your job to feel it and make sure that it's right. And that's the problem with most guys in drilling is it they're either dead fishing and letting the person just do it because they say, oh, we're drilling, or they're defending it all the time and the person doesn't get to get reps in doing a move on how it accurately works. So when you don't have good drilling practices, you don't have trust in your technique in fights. And when you don't have trust in your technique in fights, you end up looking like that,
Yeah.
making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision because you don't trust anything to be a good one. And it
Absolutely.
sucks to watch, man. It's disgusting for me to watch because I'm like, you're better than this. You
Hmm.
should be better than this. I hate watching that. So
It's
with the
almost like,
exception of that fight, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, it's like you're watching this good stuff happen and then it just frays out
Yeah,
because
like
like they can't execute. But anyway,
yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
So with the
Mhm.
exception of that fight, which was on the main card, which I mean, but again, it delivered in terms of drama. There was a lot of drama involved in
Mhm.
that. But in terms of the other fights on the card, I mean, Daniel Zellhuber was just fantastic, and um, uh, Brian Ortega, Diego
Mhm.
Lopez, and then the co-main and main event. Now, here's the other thing too: if Sean O'Malley had knocked out Marab like we wanted him to,
Mhm.
it would have never been a question of whether this was a good pay-per-view card or not. In fact, we'd have been like, man, O'Malley's the truth. He's the real deal. Best bantamweight of all time. But what happened was he got ragdolled by a guy who we thought had a good chance of doing that. So where's the surprise here? We
Yeah.
knew that was a possibility.
First, I want to talk the Zellhuber fight. Like, I I'm gonna watch that again. I recommend everyone go back and watch that. That was one of the most beautiful displays of MMA striking I've ever seen, with both exchanges and combinations. Um, but yeah, with the main event, like you said, I mean that also shows, and I have another, I have another thing I'm gonna bring up as to why MMA fans are so shallow and what have you done for me lately? I think you already know what I'm talking about. But it's like, yeah, I get it. O'Malley's your boy. He's with this generation of fighters, but it's like, how do you not appreciate what the other guy did? You know, and like you said, like Marab is like what he does for 25 minutes is damn impressive. Um, yeah, if he knocked him out in the first, like everyone wanted, card's great, card's great. Oh, O'Malley, he's so damn good. Um, but it's like he's only 50% of the fight. You got to appreciate what the other guy did to avoid that greatness that you guys are such good fans of. Um, yeah, and like I said, even I wasn't upset with the co-main event. Obviously, not upset with the main event. I think MMA fans, we're coming a long way. We still got a little bit longer to go.
Yeah, I knew the co-main event was probably going to look like that, even though I ain't gonna lie, I wanted Alexa to win. I was like,
Yeah,
she's
I was the same way. I wanted to see the striking, and
you
I
wanted
like the
you
other
wanted
fight.
her to win, but she
Hmm.
didn't. She's not. I mean, she's not good enough, right? That's
Yeah.
the bottom line. Is like when you look at like the majority of the action in the first two fights, Valentino was in control in the majority of the times,
Yep.
other than the moments where she got clipped or like some weird stuff happened. But the majority of the time, she was winning the fights. So it just tells me that she's just the better fighter. And it goes back to if we fight, 10 times, I win, 8 of them. And I think that's the case with Valentina. It's just Alexa happened to win the first one and get a draw in the second one.
Agreed.
Right. I think and I'm glad that that happened too, actually, because we have to recognize that not the best fighter doesn't always win.
Hmm.
And it's just the one who takes advantage of the moment wins that in the moment.
You know, I have a particular fight in the back of my head where I realized like I was a fighter where my wrestling, my grappling was so far more advanced than my striking. Um, And I remember I fought a guy who I had much better wrestling, much better jiu-jitsu, but he had the better boxing. Kept his range, jabbed the shit out of me all fight, won the fight. And this is a similar comparison to the fight between Grasso and Shevchenko, where Shevchenko just has more weapons and more physical ability, I think, to win. You know, the margin for victory is pretty small for Alexa. So that's why for her to pull it off the way she did in the first 9.5 rounds was so impressive.
And I'm gonna be 100 with you. I don't even think Alexa is the second best fighter in the division. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure she beats Manon Fiorot. I'm not 100% sure of that. I'm not sure she loses that one, but I'm not sure she beats her. But I don't think she beats Rose.
Yeah.
In fact, I think after watching that performance last night, and then after watching Rose the first time she fought Manon Fiorot, I think Rose is the best fighter in that division.
I feel like Rose is just having some off nights, or off rounds lately, and I mean, I love watching Rose. I'll always be a fan of Rose, but I'm looking forward to seeing her fight.
It just takes a lot of work for Rose to get to where she needs to be the best fighter in terms of mentally and physically, and then all that connecting at the same time. It's like that for everybody, but I think for her, it's even deeper. Like there has to be a really deep, rich connection between her mind, body, and spirit for her to really perform at her best.
Right.
Because she is so emotional and easily detached from some of her gifts. But outside of that, so Brandon Schaub, it has been established. You were wrong.
Yeah. Fight court established.
We established it, Brandon Schaub.
No comedy acts for 3 years.
Throwing out your judgment. Throwing it out. Pink. All right, my man. Well, once again, another good show, another good time. Great talking to you. Let's catch up again next week.
Yep. Enjoy Singapore.
So, yeah, man. I'm gonna try to enjoy Singapore. It was raining last night, but I'm gonna still try to enjoy it regardless. But my man, always a pleasure. If you enjoyed the show, hit like, share, subscribe, comment. Please tell your friends. If you didn't like the show, do the same thing. Comment, tell us why you hate us. I don't care.
Yeah.
And on that note, this court is adjourned.